Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Your Story or Tell Your Story to Lori. I'm happy to be here with Millie, who has agreed to talk about her chart and then move forward and matching up resonance in her life experience to how her chart plays out. And I just want to say ahead of time, I've been looking at the chart and it's amazing. And we're going to really get into it because she's a true Aries rising. So we're talking about a traditional first through 12th house chart. Okay, so before we go any further, welcome Millie.
Thank
Hi,
you. Hi, Lori.
how are you?
Doing well. I'm
Doing well today.
super excited to hear what you're going to tell me.
Oh, okay, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Okay, so Millie has a Gemini sun, and let's see, let's go to the natural chart. Now, Millie has a copy of her chart. So, as I explained it to everybody, she's got her third house sun in Gemini. As I said, she's got a traditional Aries rising chart with a 6-degree rising ascendant in Aries, and then a Chiron, which I haven't even touched upon with Millie yet, but it's the wounded healer. It's the asteroid that represents the inner wounds that we may carry around. That's also in your first house. So that's also very prominent in your chart. But we were just kind of touching
Mm.
upon a couple of really cool conjunctions that she's got opposing. This is the best part. So we talked about Saturn and Venus conjunct in your second house. And then we also talked about Neptune and Jupiter conjunct in your eighth house. So we're talking about opposites, right? And they're at varying degrees. In fact, Saturn and Jupiter are completely opposing each other. Remember, we talked about oppositions being challenges in our chart, right?
Hmm.
So
Yes.
in this aspect, so I'm going to say, so it's Jupiter oppose Saturn. So it's your serious, conscientious personality, sometimes maybe impractical, motivated to achieve success, but also likely to run into some self-imposed barriers on the road to achieving it. There is also a gap between your ambition and what you actually want to accomplish. And you tend not to be content with the extent of your responsibilities until you've taken on too much, leading to the problem of actually fulfilling these obligations, also overwhelm, right?
Yes.
You may also be too limited and narrow in your view of potential so that you may aim low and garner less than you're capable of. This could lead to problems with your material well-being or with being too cautious, cultivating a more giving and generous. Oh, sorry, too cautious and thrifty for your own good. Then you can also benefit from cultivating a more giving and generous attitude, greater contentment with your present resources, and trying for a better balance between dreams and reality. Now, this is the interesting part where it says you're trying for a better balance between dreams and reality. You've got your dream planet, which is the Neptune planet, also conjunct that Jupiter, which is opposite Saturn. So we go over there. We say Jupiter, Neptune. Saturn opposite Neptune. This combination gives a clear thinking and discriminating personality. Saturn brings an extremely practical dimension to the visionary idealism of the Neptune. You are responsible, compassionate, and take social issues very seriously. You may have a musical career or achieve much in the helping professions. And there may be, let's see, it says there may be confusion in your life regarding restrictions imposed upon you, in which you feel both attracted to the security imposed by such limits and simultaneously repelled or stifled by these restrictions. You may
Mm.
suffer through many trials before learning to work with both the energies of stability and of idealism in an effort to balance between either extreme of behavior. What's that? Neptune. So Neptune opposed Saturn. So let's see, Saturn. And then here's the conjunction. Conjunction of, I'm looking for the conjunction. Really? Okay. Hold on. My eyes are not as good as they used to be. Conjunct. Oh, here it is. Jupiter. This conjunction, this is the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction we talked about in the eighth house
Okay.
that opposes that second house, Saturn and Venus conjunction. So this conjunction gives an imaginative and unassuming personality. You are good and kind, considerate of others, and are friendly and easygoing. You need to feel an emotional sympathy in order for your work to be satisfying to you. You tend to work behind the scenes and do not seek personal glorification from your actions, but are content to do do this because it is helpful to others. You're capable of great belief in the unknown and unproven and are inclined to the mystical, seeing life in terms of visionary and poetic feelings rather than in practical terms. You may be even too much inclined to trust your imagination, which can cloud your powers of judgment. You benefit from attempting a more practical and reality based view of life. That makes sense.
It does make sense. All of this is deeply resonating right now.
I love that the blueprints that we have, like, this is the clarification. So if the more that people go, wow, wow, we then identify and understand that the things that we hold true aren't like right or wrong, but they're just for us.
Mm,
It takes us
yes.
on a better path forward to know that, oh, so I came here to be truly me. And I have a blueprint that shows that I've been actually doing it. And I've been kind of here and there, what have you. Sometimes with me, it was admonishment. I would admonish my like traits that were other people didn't, hold to be wonderful or whatnot, but they were really
Mhm,
authentic to who I am. And I just
mhm.
had to hone them and do them in a different way.
Um,
We're learning that. Go ahead.
that yes, that really kind of resonates with what I've been thinking about lately, with regard to kind of my professional path and
Mhm.
and what's to come. Would you like you tell me when it's a good time for me to tell you sort of what's
It's good.
landed?
Yeah, tell me, like, let's talk a little bit about what we've talked about and where you find that it fits true, and then we'll kind of go into more of the personal planets and more like that way. Right now, we're kind of
Sure.
like in the outer lying planets.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about kind of my profession right now. I've been through a lot of paths. My academic background is art history. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in art history. I stayed at home with my boys when they were little, and subsequent to kind of going through separation and divorce, I went back into the workforce and worked in human resources. And a big part of the work that I did was to kind of support and develop college hires to a good sized local corporation. And after a few years of doing that, I left the company and subsequently found myself working as an executive assistant, which is what I've been doing now for about 3 or 4 years. And where I've landed with this right now is, gosh, I really like supporting these fine people. I really like, I have admiration. I, kind of intellectually admire the folks who I provide support for. But is it enough for me? I feel like there's a big part of my mind and my heart that wants to be kind of generating ideas and kind of taking the lead on kind of putting some of those things out there. Financially, I feel like I probably am sort of underperforming relative to my education and interests.
Mhm.
But then I keep coming back to but they're but I'm getting a lot from kind of the relationships that I'm building. And so anyway, the the notion of am I playing too small has that's a question that I've recently asked
Mhm.
myself, and it feels to me as if that came out of some of the things that you were sharing with me. So
It makes sense that like as we expand into, certain I would say phases of our life, there becomes more of like a willingness to go into these bigger areas, like I would say outer planet areas or outer planet conjunctions and whatnot. And that specifically that one we talked about with the Jupiter and Neptune being conjunct. So they're in my mind, they're both like positive planets for the most part. At least Jupiter definitely is. And having them so conjunct, but then opposing a malefic like Saturn, but with conjunction to your Venus, it's kind of like it's going to open up the I haves into like expanding on, use of what you're doing now into something more springboardy into like the next chapter. Because it's like it between those
Mm,
two, you've got the I work houses and your son, like all like laying between that is um your Mercury, the sun, and then all the way over here, um, Pluto in the sixth house. So not many real planets. Of course, there's all, we can go through the asteroids and all the other stuff much later, but
mhm,
having that is like I feel like there's like an openness to like this is the expansion time, and having that Jupiter come up here, to me
mhm,
it just seems like intuitively it seems, this is just
mhm.
intuitive thought, that there's bigger expansion in that, because I think that having that Chiron, that wounded healer in your first house of Aries, and the current times being what we're in is a north node in Aries, which the nodes of the moon always retrograde backwards and spend 18 months each in the signs they're always retrograding backwards in. So currently, for the next, let's see, it started I think in July of this year. So until maybe January of 2025, they're going to be in these signs. So having that in your first house means like it's the time to burn forward that path for yourself, and to
Okay.
use that wounded healerness in your first house where you help others through the own, through your experience of your own, whether that be enlightenment reflection from something that triggered you or was something that you held on as a limiting belief from childhood. Doesn't necessarily have to be specifically trauma related, but there's wounds. There's these wounds of self
Mhm.
belief, limiting things. I say this, I'm sure, a lot, but like there was one that was children should be seen and not heard, that resonated within me, which I rebelled against from a very early age. But still,
Yes.
it was me being bad, and I knew I was being bad by going against this thing, right? By
Mhm.
going against what they wanted, but I was willing, and that ties into like again my placements of that Saturn and Venus conjunction, and then Mars there too, and then having a Pluto position that was just like a 0 degree. Like I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to try it and see where it lays.
Mhm. Will you
So
tell me
you
a
have a
little bit?
Pluto as well. Like your Pluto position is in the sixth house. That tells me like it's also in a degree of like you're here for helping with like I think peace, and
Wow.
that's the 20. It rounded up to 27 degrees. But what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
So just to kind of stay on the notion of the wounded healer a little bit longer, will you just tell me a little bit more about that? Is that the concept that like I've experienced wounds and I've healed from them, and now it's an opportunity to convey that to other people, to help other people through it?
That's right. Yeah, that's very well put. It's
Okay.
the learning from something in our own emotional uh past that has expanded, where we can then empathy, or not just sympathy with another, but have really empathy with another and not take on more of the hurt. It's
Yes.
the care but not carry
Mm-hmm.
aspect that we learn
Mm-hmm.
through. And it says having it in your first house represents issue with your vital force to be, to act, to initiate. So with this placement of Chiron, your very sense of who you are may be threatened by disturbing realizations and painful memories. So once you've expanded into that, yeah, you're going to take that with you wherever you go. It's going to be like, uh, I would say, an Aries force to be reckoned with.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Um, that's definitely resonating for me.
it's to get over the failures, or just attempts to keep trying.
Mhm,
To understand that like the position you're at has really nothing to do with how you perceive it, but how you're being given resources and skills along your path, maybe to reinvent and to redo.
mhm, mhm,
It's to see it from a different perspective. The Aries is the head. It always wants to like be first, but to remember that fast and first don't always aren't always mutually exclusive like that.
mhm,
And so sometimes looking at it and be like, well, how long have I been on this planet? Do I tend to go farther? Well, then keep going. There's really the
mhm,
age thing is a perception again. Yes, so we have a physical age situation and limitation where we see how long the life expectancy is on this planet. But that, we read about it in many doctrines about how people stayed, they were older and they lived longer. We don't understand. Maybe the time is of the essence, and we're being messed around with what the time really is here.
mm,
So it's a perception. Just shift it a little bit and say, yes, I can every day. Every day really is all you have,
mhm,
presence in that moment. But bring this evolution of all the time you spent in each present to each present to expand into that moment. Be
mhm,
like a gift. You deliver your gift every day.
mm. Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. It's like once you start getting out of the patterns, you become more whole. It says even here, it says, let's see, what does it say? It says, yeah, it says you may keenly feel a lack of achievement in your own life and compensate by trying too hard to help others, putting yourself in the background, as it were. As long as these patterns operate more or less unconsciously, they are difficult to overcome. So the first step in surmounting them is to become more conscious of your own pain, acknowledging and discovering more about what exactly went on in the past to make you feel frustrated with your own abilities. At that point, you become to come out from your own painful, like background and experience and show who you really are with a more conscious understanding of what the dynamics. Um, you can also begin to truly help others. That's when you really get it. Like I said, once you transform that, and it's not like, oh, I got it all once. No, you're a consistent student teacher every day. Like you
Mm-hmm.
remember, you reflect, you move it into some other
Mm-hmm.
expansion of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like it's not from a false sense of vicarious achievement, but from your own place of like helping people. Like you don't have to keep doing for others. You can still do it because you're doing it for you with others.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Um,
like your achievements, their achievements are still partly your achievements when you help to expand.
um, that feels very, very close to kind of the sort of professional, what's going on in my professional life right now, kind of the currents and um, on our
It
team
makes
and in
sense. It makes
department.
sense. Like we have the Chiron comes around for its return around our 50th birthday. So it does show us that expansion from that point on to really want to make the change, to really want to like look at what we've been through and transform them as we go into our next 50. That's why
Yes.
I say like the age thing is like, look at the next 50. It's like, it's the same thing. I'm an Aries sun. I get this. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very independent, like I can do it time. And like balancing on the foundation of other relationships we've had, not like you utilizing them, but more like being propped up by what you've
Mm-hmm.
experienced, by what you've already accomplished
Mm-hmm.
in partnering with others, whether that be interpersonal relationships or group relationships or, business relationships, what have you. The expansion is here, especially like for those Aries placements. Just
I
having that
love.
North Node moving forward. Oh, it's gonna, yeah, the energy, it looks crazy out there, but like what does Aries represent? War.
Mm,
Doesn't mean yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fall on that vision. I think the more of us that understand it, this individual drive for understanding the uniqueness of each of us individually, that we're not meant to compare to others, that we're,
mm,
we're meant to be here as an individual within a bigger unified group of humanity. Amazing.
yeah.
We think
Yeah. It
about we
really.
can expand this way instead of expand this way, but most folks are looking inward. But having that, like I really like having that Gemini sun right there. It's also in a 17, sorry, not 17 degrees. You have a 19-degree sun. So in there's also another work I look into. It's the Invisible Garment work by Connie Kaplan, and the book is on Amazon. I'm sure it's at a library near you. I think she has an
Mm,
audio version. But the sun in service. Here, let me open this real quick. It's like sometimes there's the need to often serve others before serving self. Does it make sense?
mhm.
But
Oh,
the
absolutely.
idea is to serve fulfill self
Hmm.
and then others. And I think that sometimes is bypassed with that needing to always be like there for somebody else.
Hmm.
But I'm going
That
to read.
is certainly hardwired into me.
There's a lot of that from like especially that the Gen X generation, right? The before the devices, before all the stuff, when we were just learning, we're kind of sandwiched in, and the expectations that we have wired within us are intense.
They really are. Yes.
Yes. It's amazing how this is happening. It's like, oh, okay, that's incredible. There's a generation of us kind of coming to this realization that things don't have to feel as hard, but you can still do hard things. Hold on, let's see. Okay,
Um,
sun. Go ahead.
I would love to know what you're seeing with kind of interpersonal relationships, um, family, romance, all of that.
Well, like it says right here with the two's conjunctions, let's see. So the conjunction you have in your second house of the I have house, right? Yep. Um, it gives your personality as a deepening and concentration or blockage in the area of interpersonal relationships. You're sensitive and have a strong sense of duty, but you're also likely to be very loyal. You may have experienced coldness from one parent, or early love experiences may have been painful. And as a result, you seem cold or uncaring yourself at times. You may
Mm,
also express jealousy or other feelings of insecurity, which may also manifest as a nagging discontent with life in general. You may experience sorrow and difficulty in marriage. In a woman's chart, there may be feelings of unattractiveness or fears regarding your femininity. You could feel bitterness and disillusion with romance, or there could be fears of rejection concerning romantic contacts. Yet, you also have an opportunity to rise above these circumstances in concentrated effort over time towards inner integration and balance, toward relationship more fully explored and felt based on the self-confidence born of actual experience and mutual understanding. That seem on point?
it seems super on point. Yeah. Golly.
But you also
Um,
got this. They also got a Venus in strong trine with Pluto, and Pluto is Pluto. You've heard of Pluto, right?
yes. Uh-huh. Mr.
Okay.
Pluto.
Mr. Pluto. So this aspect gives a magnetic personality with a focus. Remember, I told you the trines are or the enhanced conjunctions, right?
Hmm.
So this aspect gives a magnetic personality with a focus on forming close emotional attachments. You're charismatic and intense and seek to break through any barriers to close interpersonal relationships. You like to be liked by others. You may experience misfortune in marriage and partnerships, but there are also great rewards to be gained in this area. You can become involved in power struggles with partners or act in a manipulative way towards other people, which problems are made more poignant since you may also have a compulsion to be liked by others. You have simultaneously an attraction towards close involvement with another person, together with fears regarding such involvement. There are
Mm,
some extreme difficulties to be worked out in these areas, which may lead you to painful reexamination of your goals. Wisdom is required in the way you handle close relationships in order to transform the partnership energy into a growing and conscious act of sharing. And I think a lot of that you got, like I said, there's having that trine. So Venus is in Taurus for you. Now, Venus in Taurus is in its home place, but with its conjunction to Saturn, that brings the difficulty. And I
hmm.
think having it in the second house oftentimes puts the negative, oh, I don't have, instead of I do have. So it's
Mm,
important for you to reframe how you talk to yourself about what you can, will, and shall, and can, like, could do, as opposed to the opposite icky words of should, have to, need to, can't, but
yes.
more and more and more.
Hmm.
And then you've got so having Mercury in Gemini and the Sun in Gemini too, because the Gemini, like I said, I think it has a mercurial type of mutableness to where sometimes you super want to be close to other people, other times you're like, I just need you to leave me alone. I need to be,
Oh,
shut down. I
wow.
need alone time, right? And it's
Hmm.
important to recognize when those times come up individually for you. I mean, I like to
Hmm.
mark it off on a calendar. I mean, there was a time when we check things off on a calendar with without even knowledge of the recognition of the moon cycles, and the moon cycles every 28 and a half days through the month,
Hmm.
right? So it's consistently changing its pull and impact on the water and the liquids that are on our planet, which means it
Hmm.
must impact us. It actually, how many times are there babies born on full moons? The
Yeah.
tenseness, right? So it moves the oceans. It completely runs the tides. So I say it has everything to do with how it operates us. And I think the moon cycle is even more prominent for us instead of
Mm,
the sun. And your moon happens to, we haven't even talked about your moon, which is in Capricorn, which is another interesting placement because Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign and you got it up in your 10th house. So I think having here, we'll read it. So I don't, let's see, moon in Capricorn. The moon in Capricorn gives a serious and practical personality, inclined to be ambitious and acquisitive, not inquisitive, acquisitive. There can be something of a power complex in you. You may have difficulty in just being happy, so you may try too hard to achieve your own ambitions at the expense of others. You have terrific self-control and determination, and there was probably a strong parental influence at work in your early years. You may have subconscious fears to work through in order to be able to come to a true understanding of other people. The moon in the 10th house represents an emotional sensitivity to the experience of your acceptance in public career, your works in the world. Prestige matters a great deal to you. You may be ambitious in the outer world because you feel that you have something important to share with others around you. This makes you strive towards demonstrating your inner ability to be a leader. You have great inner strength and emotional control, which you project outwardly as power. People may perceive you as emotionally cool, calm, and collected. Your sense of control and power gives you an air of authority. You have natural leadership abilities, and you take the feeling of authority seriously as a demonstration of your own self-worth. You feel a need to be connected to being useful in society and work well with the public. You truly want to see yourself serving the best interest of your community. You do best when you are in the position to perform to the best of your qualifications, abilities, and talents, and use your talents to improve the lot of others around you.
Wow.
And it's in 17 degrees, which is, I believe it's attraction. So with the sun in 19 degrees, that's service. And then you've got the moon in attraction. Let's just hit upon this real quick before because we're going to be timed out, I think, here in 4 minutes. So we're going to wrap up because it's going to end abruptly. This is how this whole recording
Right.
thing works. Okay. Okay, so it says, with your sun in service, you have a deep understanding that life is a gift and that you are here to bring focus and form to the gift. You can do, capital letters do, a lot, become Mother Teresa if you so desire, or you can be. Either way, you are serving life by being alive. Train your mind to remember that each time you enter a room or a circumstance, you alter it. You bring a very sacred energy into that room by being life's most dedicated servant. If you do this, you will continue to fall more and more in love with life every day, and the benefits will be unspeakable.
Wow, Lori, that was beautiful.
That's from the Invisible Garment book I was telling you about by Connie Kaplan. Amazing, amazing.
Um, the piece that you read right before that, really, really resonated for me.
Good.
Given my kind of what the sort of professional circumstances and what I've been reflecting on recently, and what's been being reflected back to me.
What's amazing is, listen to this. This is about the moon sign. Remember, I talked about your moon being in Capricorn and 17 degrees. So this is what it talks about, moon in attraction. This is also from the Invisible Garment work. Okay, it says your moon in attraction tells us that you have already learned the principles of magnetizing what you need when you need it. It gives you great freedom in life. If you remember and trust this principle, for you do not have to put much energy into worrying about the basics, this means you are free to develop and grow and give your gifts to life. Other people with moon in attraction might inspire you. John F. Kennedy, Wolfgang Mozart, Clara Barton, Rudolf Steiner, John Muir, and I don't know who Werner Erhard is, but they were all at liberty to express life creatively because they were not tied to worrying about how to get food, clothing, shelter, and partnership. So I think, see, the thing is, you've got the moon up there in that 10th house of purpose. Once you realize this, you're going to attract exactly the situation you want work wise to yourself. Realize that moon placement is like magnetizing for you. You can magnetize all what you desire. But once you get all those self limiting beliefs out of the way, you're going to be key.
That's fantastic.
Isn't it?
Wow.
You have an
Thank you.
amazing chart. Absolutely. Everybody is such an individual. I love it. Well, thank you so much for for coming onto my little program here. I just totally froze. Okay. Did you hear me?
Yes, Lori,
Yeah, okay.
thank you. This was incredibly enlightening. You have a true gift, and I'm so
Well, I
grateful.
appreciate that. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you ever want to come back for more stories or keep tuning in, we all appreciate it, and there'll be much more to come
Sounds great.
anytime.
Thank
Okay, it's
you.
been so nice to talk to you. Take good care of yourself, Millie.
You too. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.